Yo, what up? How you guys doing out there today? This is your boy Roto Beast. I'm here with my boy Jeremy. We're here to present you our NBA Morning Shootaround for Monday, February 3rd. If you're new to this channel, please make sure and click the subscribe button below so you can watch all of our NBA, NFL, and MLB videos. If you haven't came and checked out our website here at dfscheatsheet.com, you're absolutely missing out. We have all the tools to help you compete with the pros day in and day out, including a complete optimizer, tons of content, daily FanDuel and DraftKings cash lineups. Hey, we're truly a one-stop shop for all your DFS needs. So make sure to come check out the site here at dfscheatsheet.com. So what up, Jeremy? How you doing out there, bro?
What up, man? Monday after the Super Bowl. It's all
Monday
about
after. Yep, definitely.
NBA now, right?
Yep, I was gonna say the exact same thing as you. Now we can just focus on some basketball, and yeah, man. Starts with today. We got a monster 10-game slate. Couple good games to watch on the slate. There's definitely a bunch of fantasy relevancy, some news that we gotta wait for, and all that good stuff. So yeah, man, you ready to jump into it?
One quick question for you. You ready for the XFL?
I ain't gonna watch no XFL, bro.
You don't think it has a chance?
Nah, I'm not gonna watch it. But yeah, man, let's jump into some basketball. We'll start today with Golden State going into Washington to face the Wizards. This game should be a pretty high scoring, up tempo type game.
Should be, but we're waiting on news on D'Angelo Russell. He's got a quad injury. This is for a 10-game slate. You can go to the website and check out our injury report where DJ breaks down all the injuries. There's a lot of injuries today. I think that the last time I looked at, there's like maybe 25 guys that are out on the slate already. And then there's a handful of guys that are doubtful or questionable. So D'Angelo Russell in this game, David Bertans in this game, both questionable. If Russell doesn't play in this game, I don't know, man. I think that there's good value you could look at, and I would start with Burks. Alec Burks at 5,100 would probably take over the default point guard role. Draymond Green coming off a monster game. He was in our cash line, coming off a 16 assist game. And if you look at Draymond over the last really 4 games, he had 11 assists against the Pacers, 12 against the 76ers, 7 against Boston, 16 against Cleveland. We know the type of game that Washington likes to play, which is up and down the floor with no defense. Draymond at 6,200, a guy that I think could be a really solid play in this spot tonight, especially with the power forward position as a whole. You've got some injuries to kind of look at tonight as well. So to me, you want to look there. Marquise Chris is not a guy that I'm really looking at 5,000. I would much rather get the other side of this if I was going to play center this game with Bryant. But for me, we've got to wait and see what happens with D'Angelo Russell, because that would put Damon Lee in play. That would put Alec Burks as really a really chalky play. It would give a little bit of a bump to Glenn Robinson, and it would open up a lot of kind of default value on the slate. Eric Pascal would probably come into play. Omari Spellman would probably come into play because there'd be so much usage to be made up with Russell out. If Russell plays, I think that you just load up Russell. You can.
Right. Yeah, I mean, on the flip side of things for Washington, there's definitely some guys that we can look at. I mean, Ish Smith, Isaiah Thomas, they're kind of splitting minutes, both playing about 22 to 25 minutes. That's kind of a coin flip right there. The guys I'm really looking at, it's 3 guys. Bradley Beal, 10.5. It's a crazy, crazy high price tag. And, for me, Bradley Beal strictly is a GPP play. But, I mean, the guy's paying off on these price tags, at least giving you 5x, and what? 5 of the past 6 games, he's got you at least 53 fantasy points, so he's definitely playing very well right now. The price tag is just kind of high for me, strictly GPP, but this is a good matchup against a young Warriors team that he can have another good game. Then I'm going to look at the small forward spot. Troy Brown at 4,700. The guy's just playing a bunch of minutes. He's playing up 32 to 34 minutes a game. He's getting the opportunity, and I think that he's a guy you can also look at GPP as well. And lastly, I mean, we told you guys about this two games ago. Hopefully you guys listened. Thomas Bryant, still too cheap going against a Warriors team who doesn't have a real center. At 5,300, 3 straight games of at least 32 fantasy points. That's 6x on this price tag. I definitely think he gives you a little bit more upside, on this price tag as well. It's still a little too cheap. So the main guys, if you're looking at anybody from Washington, it's Bill, Troy Brown, and Thomas Bryant for me. Moving on, next game we're going to talk about, we got Orlando going into Charlotte to face the Hornets.
So, again, another guy, Evan Fournier, he's a game-time decision here with a back injury. If Fournier is to be out of this one, you could possibly take a look at Terrence Ross. I like Terrence Ross on almost any slate where he's like $4,300 or cheaper, just for the simple fact that if he gets hot, he can knock down a bunch of shots and get you a solid floor. So you look at him, DJ Augustine. We know he's out. Michael Carter Williams. He's 4,000 on FanDuel, and Michael Carter Williams is playing 22 minutes, and we've seen him have as many as 36 fantasy points in the last week. In those minutes, it's 22 minutes. So he's possibly a GPP play. He's the guy that I would definitely give consideration to if Evan Fournier is going to get ruled out. Another guy that I would possibly look at if Fournier is ruled out is maybe Wes Iwundu as a deep dart GPP play. Iwundu, we've seen him get run. We saw him play against the Lakers in the same exact spot when Evan Fournier was ruled out. He played 31 minutes, had 19 points and 31.8 fantasy points. If we were to get news that Fournier's out and Iwundu is going to bump into a starting spot, I think he's a great GPP person you could target. But to me, it's really about one guy here in this spot, and that's Nikola Vucevic. This is a crush spot, in my opinion, for Vucevic going against the Charlotte Hornets. They run three guys out there at the center position. They're not really committed to either one of the guys, Zeller, Hernangomez, Biyombo. I think that Vucevic dominates all three of these guys. We know Charlotte struggled against centers all season long. They're not one of the better teams in the league as far as rebounding goes. And I think this is a good spot at 8.6 for Vucevic to get you 55 plus fantasy points. He hasn't had one of those monster games in the last 3 or 4 games, but he has gotten you 42, 39. He did have 54.7 against Oklahoma City on January 22nd. So we fully know he's capable of giving you 55 to 60 fantasy points. I think it's a really good price tag in tournaments today.
Yeah, on the Charlotte side of things, I mean, I don't really have any crazy interest in anybody. If I was going to look at anybody, I think it would be 3 guys. I think they're all coming in very fair price tags. They're a little bit more of a GPP plays for me, but in an up-tempo game against Orlando, I think you got to look out. First, I'll start with Terry Rozier. He's playing the minute, 6,300, a very fair price tag. We know Terry Rozier can definitely have upside games on a price tag like this, so he's the first guy that I'll start with. Then you can look at Devontae Graham. The guy's having a really good breakout year this year, 6,400. Definitely been a little bit up and down, but the minutes have been there. That's what I'm liking. I'm really liking this matchup going against Orlando. And last but not least, you got the young guy, Miles Bridges, at 5,300. He's coming off back-to-back games where he scored you at least 23 real-life points. They need some extra. They need somebody to step up and score the ball. And, past few games, he scored 23 points. He's played at least 34 minutes. So I think that he's got a guy you can look at possibly as a GPP play at 5,300. Outside that, I'm not really too interested in the bigs. We talked about the bigs. They all kind of rotate. Nobody really gets any crazy solidified minutes. Zeller occasionally have a big game or something. But I'm really just going to kind of stick with the 3 wing players and move on. Next game we're going to talk about, we got New York going into Cleveland to face the Cavs.
So Julius Randle has now been upgraded to spot. I love Randle at 7,700. I think this is a really good spot for him against the Cleveland team. We just saw power forward and Draymond Green smash against Cleveland. Other power forwards recently have smashed against Cleveland. I just think that Randle is in a really good spot here against this Cleveland team who plays well at home. I expect this game will have a lot of scoring in it, and we know that Randle can get it done both in the scoring category and the rebound category. Outside of Julius Randle, I mean, Elfrid Payton will come back from suspension. I think 6,400 is a little expensive for him. There's a couple of other guys I think are better values in the slate. Another guy in this game Colin Sexton's a little bit cheaper at 6,200. We know Colin Sexton plays a shooting guard spot with Garland back. I think you can give Garland consideration as well in this spot. So I'll let you talk about those Cavs guys. But just for the point guard position, I just think Payton's too expensive. With RJ Barrett out, a guy that I've been playing, to be honest with you, is Damian Dotson. For the simple fact that Reggie Bullock, I'm okay if you want to, if you're going to recommend him as a cash game play, I'd be okay with that. But Damian Dotson has played 24 and 27 minutes in the last 2 games. He's been playing on average between 18 and 25 minutes. With him, he's like a Bogdanovich. He needs a score for him to get you value. But, you look at the last 6 games, and 3 of those, he's gotten you at least 22 fantasy points. In 3 of those, he's 3,500. I think it's a really good minimum value play, but that's kind of where I'm going to keep it. If you want to look at Mitchell Robinson, if he is going to play today, his price is back down. And you could possibly take a look at him as well at the center position. It's just, that's kind of a tougher matchup for a young guy against Tristan Thompson, who probably is too cheap.
Yeah, I mean, if you look on the Cleveland side of things, there's a couple guys that I have some real interest in. They do play better at home. I'm going to start with. I mean, I think Garland's a guy you could throw out there. I think that he's in consideration. He's not the guy I'm really, really high on though. But the thing I will say about Garland is he's playing a ton of minutes. He's averaging about 34 minutes a game right now. He definitely showed us a couple upside games. But the guy that I'm really looking at. Colin Sexton, man, definitely coming into it his own his second year. The guy's just been playing very, very well. 3 straight games of at least 36 fantasy points, just like Garland. His minutes have been there as well. And they're really looking for Colin Sexton to score. In 5 of the past 6 games, he scored at least 23 actual real-life points. So he's averaging almost 20 points a game. And I think that Sexton is a really, really good play. And the other guy I'll look at, man, I'll continue to look at Kevin Love. He's playing right around 30 minutes at 7,200. The guy's a walking double-double, averaging a double-double for the season. I think that you can look at him in this spot against a young New York team. The only thing about it is Kevin Love hasn't. He hasn't. We know it. I mean, but he hasn't shown us the crazy upside where he's going to get 50 fantasy points. At a 7,200 price tag, we need about 36 for value. I definitely think he can get you at least 6x and get you 42, 43 fantasy points if he's going to play the minutes. So I think that you can look at him. I think he's probably a little bit more of a GPP play. Kevin Love and Sexton are my 2 favorite guys for the Cavs, and that's really where I'm at with them. Moving on, next game we're going to talk about, we got Dallas going into Indiana to face the Pacers.
And we got Doncic out, right? So with Doncic out, you also have Seth Curry out. I was really disappointed, man, because JJ Barea had a monster game at minimum value, and he was the lower owned guy, like we had mentioned. And then I played him on Saturday, and he doesn't, no minutes, didn't play. Coming up, 22 minutes against Phoenix, we had 25.9 fantasy points, and then 20 minutes against Houston, where he had 28.5 fantasy points, and they didn't play. But you've got no Seth Curry today. Jalen Brunson is priced all up to 5,700. It's Barea, in my opinion, it's a tournament only play, and you understand that you're playing him, that he'll probably be super low owned. But you have to understand you're playing him with the chance that you might get a 0. So, with Doncic out, there is point guard minutes to be made up. You look at the shooting guard position, Delon Wright, 5,100 is too expensive for me, in my opinion, for what he brings to the table. You got Tim Hardaway at 4,500. That's probably the next guy that I would look at. And he's probably the best play, him and Dorian Finney-Smith. And then Porzingis, right? If Porzingis is going to play, we know that the center position has been a position we've targeted going against Indiana all year long. They just don't, as good of a rebounder as Sabonis is, the center position, Miles Turner is not very good of a defender. So that'll be an interesting kind of matchup. But I think that Porzingis at 8,000 is a very intriguing play. We know the usage will be there without Doncic, and that's probably where I'll keep it as the main target for.
Yeah, on the Indiana side of things, I mean, Malcolm Brogdon, he's back, 6,500. He last game he struggled a little bit from the field against New York, but still got you 7 rebounds, 12 assists for 31 fantasy points. Still got you value on this price tag. And he's not going to shoot the ball, horrible, every single game. And the game before against Chicago, he had another really solid outing. The guy just fills up the stat sheet. He has a bunch of weapons now. I think that you could feel very comfortable with him giving you a floor of 32, which you need for value on this price tag. He definitely gives you 40 fantasy point upside with how he rebounds the ball, how he passes the ball as well. So I'll start with Malcolm Brogdon. I think that he's a good play here at 6,500. He's a guy that I think you could really consider against a banged up Dallas team right now. Jeremy Lamb, he was a guy that I thought was going to really get pushed out the rotation with Oladipo back. But with the fact that TJ Warren got hurt, I think that they'll put Jeremy Lamb at the small forward spot. He'll continue to get some minutes there until Warren comes back at 4,300. I think he's a guy that you can look at as a GPP play. Victor Oladipo playing right around 23, 24 minutes at 5,100. You can look at him as a GPP play. He's going to have one of those monster games. Hasn't had one yet, but I think that both of those guys are GPP consideration. The guys that I'm really liking, though, for Dallas, outside of Brogdon. I think that you can really look at DeMontis Sabonis at 8,100 going against a Dallas team who doesn't have any real bigs down there. I think this is a solid spot for him to have a really, really good game. I'm going to look at his teammate as well. Miles Turner, 5,100. I think it's too cheap for Miles Turner in this spot. I think that he can go out there and have a really good game, especially against coming off a game against a New York team where he played 33 minutes. I mean, I know it wasn't the best game, but I'm just looking at the minutes being there. If he's going to play, 30 plus minutes at 5,100, definitely think that you could really consider him. So that's really where I'm at, man. It's Brogdon. I think Brogdon, Sabonis, and Turner are probably the top plays for me. And then you can look at Lamb and Oladipo as GPP plays. Moving on, next game we'll talk about, we got Philadelphia going into Miami to face the Heat.
And look, the thing is, Ben Simmons is playing really well on paper. We know that Ben Simmons, with Embiid back, that Ben Simmons should be the guy that suffers in usage, but that hasn't been the case. The guy that suffered in overall is Joel Embiid. The minutes just aren't there, at least consistently, right? He's played 26 minutes in his first game back. He played 34 minutes against Atlanta, and then he played 23 minutes against Boston. So, I don't know what's going on there, if they're trying to just load manage this thing. What I don't get is it had nothing to do with his legs, right? So I just, it's hard to figure out. But I do know that Joel Embiid at 8,800 is way too cheap. It's just too cheap of a price tag. And Ben Simmons at 9,000 is a fair price tag. But, it's really difficult to play either one of these guys. They're tournament-only plays because you just don't know what you're going to get at this particular point in time. The one guy that I'm going to continue to throw out there, and I told you when they played their last game against Boston, Shake Milton. I touted him against Atlanta. Shake Milton. This guy's getting minutes. You look at over the last 5 games, 22 minutes, 25 minutes, 35 minutes against Atlanta, 29 against Boston. He's had 24 fantasy points or more in 3 of the last 5 games, and he had a 44-point fantasy point production against the Atlanta Hawks on January 30th. Milton is the guy that is the fairest price for what he's the amount of minutes he's getting. Tobias Harris at 6,500 is a tough play for me with a roster that's got basically him as a third option, and with a guy like Shake Milton on the floor who's been as active as he's been. So that's kind of where I'm at. I don't have a problem. I still don't have a problem playing Matisse Thybulle in tournaments if you're looking for a salary save situation. He's going to play 23 to 27 minutes. And what you're looking for out of Milton is not necessarily the scoring part of it. That's kind of a bonus, but he does get you rebounds and a lot of steals. He's a very good defender. So, that's really, for me, the number one guy I'm going to play again is Shake Milton.
Yeah, I mean, on Philadelphia, I'm just going to look at their couple stars, man. Jimmy Butler got traded to Philadelphia last year. We know how that went. I think that, he'll come in today ready to play. Definitely think that Jimmy Butler is a guy that we can look at. Had a really big game against him already earlier this year. And then Bam. Bam, got selected to his first All-Star game. He's been playing very, very well. He's had 2 games against Philadelphia this year. One was somewhat of a dud. He got in foul trouble. The other one, was December 18th, played 33 minutes and got you 50 fantasy points. So definitely think that Bam is in play here. Outside of that, they got a lot of guards that are sharing minutes. One guy that's getting a bunch of minutes so that they're really liking is this guy, Tyler Hero. The guy's played at least 26 minutes in 5 straight games at a 4,300 price tag. He's got you at least 20 fantasy points with the 35 fantasy point give in there, just kind of showing that he does give you a little bit of upside. But that's really where I'm at with Philadelphia. You're going to keep it short and simple. Moving on, next game we're going to talk about, we got Boston going into Atlanta to face the Hawks.
Trae Young been upgraded to probable in this one, so that's good for Trae Young. But on the flip side of this, there's no Kemba Walker today. Kemba Walker's been ruled out. Marcus Smart has been ruled out. And when both those guys have been ruled out, I think that the default chalk is going to go to Jaylen Brown, Gordon Hayward, and Jason Tatum. The only problem with Jason Tatum is we don't know, at least we haven't seen, if there's going to be a minutes restriction. Actually, I think that I just saw a tweet this morning that said there's no longer a minutes restriction. So Tatum at 7,900. Those are 3 guys that you focus on. We know that you could Enes Kanter's back at 4,400. I think he's another guy that you could get some exposure to as well. With Alex Lynn out, they've got Damian Jones playing in their center spot. So, Kanter at 4,400 is a really good value. I really think that in cash games today, you could possibly see 4 Boston players in a lot of lineups because there is no Kemba Walker. There is no Marcus Smart, who's really their 6th man, and then Walker, their highest usage guy. You're going to see, a lot of Jaylen Brown. You're going to see a lot of um, Gordon Hayward, and a lot of Jason Tatum. But there's two guys you could also look at in tournaments. Brad Wanamaker. Wanamaker getting regular run, playing between 14 and 26 minutes, depending on the game. Just played 26 minutes against Philadelphia. His price tag is 4,100, opens up value at the point guard position. And the shooting guard position, a guy you could also look at is Javonte Graham at 3,900. Graham, we've seen him play as many as 28 minutes this year in the same spot where both Marcus Smart and Kemba Walker were ruled out. He had 24.7 points against the Orlando Magic back on January 24th in 28 minutes. So those are two guys in tournaments that you can look at to get some exposure to lower-owned guys who won't be as popular as some of these other really easy kind of cherry-picked plays, which would be Jaylen Brown, Gordon Hayward, and Jason Tatum.
Yeah, I mean, on that last side of things, there's some guys we could really look at. We'll start with Trae Young. He has been upgraded probable. I think that this is he's going to play, and I think it's a pretty decent spot here for him going at home, going against a Boston team that's a little bit banged up. Trae Young, I mean, the guy shoots from almost half court, hard to stop him. He's having a really good season, so I think that Trae Young definitely is in play. Outside of Trae Young, I mean, you can look at a guy like Kevin Huerter. The guy he's played a boatload of minutes. He's played in 3 of the past 4 games. He's played 37 or more minutes. 40 minutes last game against Dallas, starting to shoot the ball a little bit better. He's strictly a GPP play for me, though. I just don't see much upside at that 5,000 price tag. The other guy that I'm really interested in outside of Trae Young is John Collins. I like bigs going against Boston. Collins is playing very well right now. Third straight game of having a double-double. Played at least 33 minutes in the past 3 games as well. 41, 37 fantasy points. You need about 40 for value. You need about 40, probably about 46, 47 for 6x upside. So, I mean, he hasn't necessarily been showing us that in the past, 5, but against the Clippers, he did show us that with 67 fantasy points. So I think that Collins is a guy that we can look at in GPPs to give us a little bit of upside, along with Trae Young are probably my favorite 2 plays on the Atlanta side of things. Cool. Moving on, next game we're going to talk about, we got Phoenix going into Brooklyn to face the Nets.
No Kyrie Irving in this. Ricky Rubio is a game-time decision. Tyler Johnson has been ruled out. Ty Jerome, a guy who's gotten some run, he's been ruled out. Cameron Johnson is ruled out. Dario Saric is out. Kaminsky is out. So, I mean, Aaron Baines is out. This to me, there's some really good value, and it may not look like it from a price standpoint, but DeAndre Ayton at 8,300, I think, is in a smash spot. We know we like to use centers against Brooklyn. There's not another big guy that's available for them. I mean, Tariq Owens is a guy that is on their roster, I guess. He just signed a 2-way contract with them. He played 7 minutes against Milwaukee yesterday for 4.4 fantasy points. I don't know if you want to look at him. But my point is that Devin Booker, Kelly Oubre, and DeAndre Ayton, you can load. You want a game stack? Stack up the chalk of Boston with the chalk of Phoenix, because there's going to be a lot of minutes that these guys are going to get because they don't have very many players that are available today. So, Booker, his price tag, 8,600. It looks like it's expensive. Ricky Rubio, if he is ruled out, that's a really good price for the amount of usage that Devin Booker is going to have against the
Right.
500. I think he's one of the best point guard plays on the slate. Period. Point blank. End of story.
Yeah, I mean, on the Brooklyn side of things, there's just a couple of guys I'm looking at. Obviously, you start with Spencer Dinwiddie, going to start at the point guard role. We seen what he was doing earlier in the year with no Kyrie in there. So definitely think he's the top play for Brooklyn. After him, I'm going to look at Jared Allen. Jared Allen's just playing out of his mind right now at 6,200. I think that he's a guy that we can really consider as a solid play to get today. And the guy that's really interesting, man, he's been shooting very, very bad since coming back. Talking about Karis LeVert. Definitely, the minutes have been right around 22 minutes a game. With no Kyrie, though, I think they're going to start giving this guy a couple extra minutes. And, hey, man, at the end of the day, he's an unrestricted free agent after this year. He's going to want to get paid. He's going to need to pick up his production compared to what it has been recently if he wants to kind of get the money that he really wants to get. So I'm looking for Karis LeVert to definitely start playing a little bit better, start getting a little bit more minutes with the injury to Kyrie Irving. So I think that you could throw him in there at a cheap price tag of 4,100. That's a pretty good GPP upside play. That's really where I'm at with Brooklyn. Moving on, next game we're talking about, we got Detroit going into Memphis to face the Grizzlies.
Yeah, and you hit the nail on the head, man. I do not like do not like Karis LeVert, and I think that's why you've seen his price tag dip when Irving's playing, because I don't like him playing with Spencer Dinwiddie, but he's going to come off the bench today. He'll be a high usage player off the bench at 4,100. Love it. Detroit, we're getting close to the trade deadline, and they've got a team full of people that are on the block, right? They've got Derrick Rose possibly on the block. You know, Drummond, he's on the block. I've even heard that Morris is on the block. They've also got guys out. You know, there's no Luke Kennard. He hasn't played for a while. We know Blake Griffin out for the season. So Christian Wood is a guy that I'm going to look at 4,400. And here's what I'm going to tell you. I say this on my podcast every day that Detroit is on the slate. If you're playing DraftKings, that's a different strategy we could talk about. If you're playing FanDuel, because lineup block is at 4:00 and there's no late swap, if Detroit is playing their game time is an hour after lock, it's very difficult to play Andre Drummond or Derrick Rose. You don't have to worry about Rose today because he's been ruled out, but it's very difficult to play Drummond today because you're not going to have any news before their game starts, which is, you know, at 4:00 when lock happens, you're not going to have any news. It would be post-lock news. So to me, I just think that if you want to play him, understand what you're doing, but I don't recommend it. Reggie Jackson, a game time decision. If both these guys are out, if Reggie Jackson ends up being out, Derrick Rose already ruled out. Tim Frazier, he becomes a solid play, but Bruce Brown at 4,000 is a really, really, really solid play. I like him no matter what today. A guy getting no love anywhere as far as ownership goes is Milacek. This guy's playing a lot of minutes. We've seen him have some really good games. He's 3,700. Yesterday had 35 minutes, 25.2 fantasy points. You know, he's had at least 20 fantasy points in 3 of the last 5 games. 31.5 fantasy points against Brooklyn in 37 minutes back on January the 25th. He's getting no love, and he's getting run, playing as much as 35 minutes at 3,700, and they're going to be shorthanded today too. So, you know, you got to look at Markieff Morris. Is he going to play? Is he not going to play? But Christian Wood and Doumbia are 2 guys at very, very low values that I think are in play strongly today just because they're running out of guys in their, you know, that are available on their roster, and they don't have a whole bunch of wings. All their wings are out. They've got big guys is kind of what they've got. And I've seen them play with Christian Wood and Andre Drummond on the floor at the same time. So Wood is a guy that's got a ton of upside. I probably like him the best. We got to wait and see what happens with the guard positions and how that injury news shakes out.
Yeah, man, I definitely think you could play some of these Memphis guys. For me, they're strictly GPP, but I mean, John Morant's playing very well, 7,300. He's the first guy that you kind of talk about. Definitely gives you some upside on this price tag. Going against a Detroit team you talked about. I mean, if they're going to try to put a big guy, on Morant, he's going to blow by him every single time. Going to have a really good game here. So definitely think Morant's a guy that I'm going to start with. After that, Dylan Brooks, he's playing very well, playing very consistent. The minutes have been there. The production has been there for the most part. Continue to look at Dylan Brooks. Crowder, the past couple of games, the minutes have been up a little bit, playing 29, 27 minutes. He's got you 28, 31 fantasy points. So definitely take that on a 4,600 price tag. That gives you about 7x, and you can't complain about 7x when somebody's giving you that. Jared Jackson, GPP play, he has been up and down. But I mean, for the most part, he has been playing consistent minutes around 30 minutes, and he's shown us a couple games where he did give us a little bit of upside there. So he's a GPP play. And Valanciunas has been playing very well. The problem is I don't like the matchup against Drummond, so we do got to wait and see what happens with Andre Drummond. But Valanciunas, like I said, he has been on a roll, so you can possibly look at him in GPPs. I think the main guy though is John Morant here for Memphis. Moving on, next game we're going to talk about, we got Minnesota going into Sacramento to face the Kings.
And we just saw this game, right? I mean, we just saw this game. It was an exciting game. I think that Sacramento was down by 21. They came all the way back and beat Minnesota, I believe. So the famous De'Aaron Fox deliberately missed the free throw and made it. Guys on rebound and put up a basket to tie that game. So I like him here. I think there's a lot to like in this game on both sides. De'Aaron Fox, 8,300. You know, you can look at Buddy Hield, 5,800. Bogdanovich is really cheap at 4,900. There's a lot of shooting guards today that are really good value plays. I mean, we've probably talked about 5 of them already. Harrison Barnes, not a guy that I typically like to play unless it's a large slate like this. We're looking to get somebody low owned. Belitza's price all the way down to 5,600. And we've seen, against Minnesota, he played 41 minutes. He had 20 points, 9 rebounds, 8 assists, 55 fantasy points. His production hasn't been the same over the last 3 games. He's had 7.5, 18.1, and 19.1. The minutes are still pretty consistent, playing about 30 minutes, but the production is down quite a bit. Dwayne Dedmon, to me, there's 3 guys, right? Fox, Buddy Hield, and Bogdanovich. Those are really where I'm going to look at on the Sacramento side thing, but it's really Fox.
Yeah, for Sacramento, for Minnesota, there's 3 guys. I mean, you can look at Shabazz Napier, 6,200. I think he's a very fair price tag. He's playing very well. The minutes have definitely been there. After him, I mean, Andrew Wiggins, 7,100. I think he's in a good spot. Once again, they need this guy to score the ball. He's definitely shown us some upside games recently. The minutes are there. The production has been there. He had an absolute monster game against Sacramento the game before. And then lastly, Karl-Anthony Towns going against a Sacramento team that doesn't have, a true center that I think he can really have a good game for sure. Those are really the main 3 guys for me on the Sacramento side of things. On the Minnesota side of things. Moving on, final game of the night, we got the San Antonio going into LA to face the Clippers.
I think I haven't been a fan of playing Spurs, but I think that Dejounte Murray, if he's going to play like he's played in the last couple of games, 27 to 30 minutes, I think at this price tag, you can definitely take a look at Dejounte Murray. The problem is that he's a deep tournament play for the simple fact we've already touched on like 3 or 4 other point guards that are in better situations that are either at the same price or cheaper than him, like a Ricky Rubio and Shake Milton and some of these other guys, right? I mean, you can look at DeRozan, his price is all the way down now to 7,900, but you're going to get a 100% healthy Clippers team today, and I don't really have any interest in any side of this on the San Antonio for the San Antonio side of it, right? I mean, when they're full, when the Clippers are at full strength and they've got both the Claw and Paul George and Beverly, we know what he can do. They're a good defensive team. I think this will be a low-scoring game for San Antonio. I don't think it'll be very close. Just don't have too much interest in the San Antonio side.
Yeah, I mean, on the Clipper side of things, I mean, the 2 things that really stand out to me first is Lou Williams and Harrell are both coming in too cheap. That's one thing that's really jumping out to me. Both those guys coming off the bench, playing around 30 minutes. I think that they're probably the best 2 plays on this Clippers team. If you want to go from the narrative perspective, Kawhi going against his old team, you can possibly look at there for a GPP play. But I don't like, Kawhi and Paul George really too much when they're all at full strength. You got Beverly, like you said, you mentioned it. They're at basically 100% healthy right now, and everybody does a little bit of everything. So fancy numbers don't tend to get there. So Paul George at 8,100. I think that you can look at him as a GPP play along with Kawhi Leonard. Patrick Beverly at 5,000 is coming in at a pretty cheap price tag as well. But I really think it's Lou Williams and I think it's Harrell are the guys that I'm probably going to look at more than anybody else. And that's really where I'm at, bro. So, hey, man, if you guys want a more in-depth analysis on today's slate, make sure to check out the site, dfscheatsheet.com. And then good luck on your guys' contest tonight, all right? All right, peace out.